Good morning, Bailey. All right, so today I'm going to have you go on mythology. It looks like you're doing okay on there. We need to sit down one-on-one, both chemistry and geometry. Your test grades were really, your first test was not very good on either one. So we need to go over that together. But your mythology you had 80s in, so that's really good. So go ahead, and I think you have a test coming up in mythology today. So go ahead and take that test and we'll see how you do. Make sure you read the questions really good and think about it before you place an answer. You're only going to take that test one time, remember? All right, so make sure you make it good. And if you have any questions, call me. And so you're going to do that. And then so you can hit pause or you can keep on going until this next one. We're going to, the other day you watched a video on Revolutionary War, which was the first event after the 13 colonies became the 13 colonies, then the Revolutionary War happened, correct? So what we're going to do is we are going to read this together, and then we're going to touch base on each of the incidences that came about from the Revolutionary War, all right? So I'm going to hold this up, but it might be best for you to read it from the link that I have in the file, okay? Because it's kind of hard to see on here. So I'm going to read it for you. You're going to read along with me, all right? So, events leading to the American Revolution. Stamp Act Congress, 1765. Delegates from 9 colonies met to propose measures in opposition to the Stamp Act. The non-important agreement came from this meeting. Boston Massacre, 1770. British troops fired on a mob in the streets of Boston. The mob was protesting the presence of British troops in the city. The troops had been stationed in the city since 1768. 5 Bostonians were killed in the incident, including a man named Crispus Attucks. The Gaspee Affair, 1772. Under the leadership of John Brown, colonists attacked and burned British custom cutter Gaspee, which was aground off Providence, Rhode Island. This was in protest to British import duties. British were threatening to take all criminal trials to England, thus taking away local self-rule. The Boston Tea Party in 1773. Boston citizens disguised as Mohawk Indians boarded East India Company ship Dartmouth and destroyed 342 cartons of tea in protest to British duties and monopoly on tea. The Intolerable Acts of 1774. 5 British laws mainly designed to punish the people of Boston in retaliation for the Boston Tea Party. 1. The British closed the port of Boston until the Bostonians paid for the tea they destroyed. 2. British officers or soldiers accused of murder would be tried in England. 3. The people could not hold town meetings without the governor's permission. 4. Colonists had to provide food and housing for British troops. And 5. The Quebec Act placed the Ohio Valley off limits to the colonists and placed the area under Canadian rule. Then we had the Committee of Correspondence in 1772, first formed in Boston to keep other colonies informed of events in Massachusetts. Later became source of information throughout the colonies. And then we had the Sons of Liberty in 1765. Organized by New England colonists to enforce colonial measures in opposition to parliamentary laws placed on the colonists, tried to force Parliament to repeal measures passed to govern colonies. All right? So, there is that. What we're going to do today is we're going to look at the Stamp Act. So it's going to be this one here, the Stamp Act. A general tax measure sparked the greatest organized resistance, known as the Stamp Act. It required all newspapers, broadsides, pamphlets, licenses, leases, and other legal documents to bear revenue stamps. Hold on. Excuse me. The proceeds collected by American customs agents would be used for defending, protecting, and securing the colonies. Bearing equally on people who did any kind of business, the Stamp Act aroused the hostility of the most powerful and articulate groups in the American population: journalists, lawyers, clergymen, merchants, and businessmen, North and South, East and West, leading merchants organized for resistance and formed non-importation associations. Trade with the mother country fell off sharply in the summer of 1765 as prominent men organized themselves into the Sons of Liberty, secret organization formed to protest the Stamp Act, often through violent means. From Massachusetts to South Carolina, mobs forcing luckless customs agents to resign their offices destroyed the hated stamps. Militant resistance effectively nullified the act. Spurred by Delegate Patrick Henry, the Virginia House of Burgesses passed a set of resolutions in May denouncing taxation without representation as a threat to colonial liberties. It asserted that Virginians, enjoying the right of Englishmen, could be taxed only by their own representatives. The Massachusetts Assembly invited all the colonies to appoint delegates to a Stamp Act Congress in New York held in October 1765 to consider appeals for relief to the Crown and Parliament. 27 representatives from 9 colonies seized the opportunity to mobilize colonial opinion. After much debate, the Congress adopted a set of resolutions asserting that no taxes ever have been or can be constitutionally imposed on them but by their respective legislatures, and that the Stamp Act had a manifest tendency to subvert the right and liberties of the colonists. So number 1, you're going to get a sheet of paper and you're going to write your answer. And if you need to read back through here, you can do that. Number 1, the what required all newspapers, broadsides, pamphlets, licenses, leases, and other legal documents to bear revenue stamps? A, the Copyright Act, B, the Stamp Act, C, the Sugar Act, and D, writs of assistance. Number 2, spurred by whom the Virginia House of Burgesses passed a set of resolutions in May 1765 denouncing taxation without representation as a threat to colonial liberties. Go ahead and fill that in. Number 3, the secret organizations formed to protest the Stamp Act, often through violent means, were known as what? Committees of correspondence, militias, Sons of Liberty, and tea parties. So after each question, you can hit pause. You can go back and then hit pause, fill in your answer, and then go to the next one if you want to. Okay? So that's the Stamp Act. That's what you're gonna do from the Revolutionary War today. All right. Tomorrow we'll do the Boston Massacre. So there's that. And then you're going to take your mythology test, correct? And then you're also going to read Chapter 2 of Indian in the Cupboard. And once I get a break here, because I'm getting ready to go back there and help Tom, then I'm going to give you a call. And you're going to give me a summary of Indian in the Cupboard Chapter 1, which you read on Friday. So you got to give me a summary of that. You can do it orally, or you can do it you can make me a writing one, but you do not copy word for word. You don't use plagiarism, and don't just pick things out of the chapter. You have to actually have read it, and if you haven't, then you need to do that. But today you also have to read Chapter 2. So hopefully you read Chapter 1 on Friday, so you're not reading a really long time today. Excuse me. And then when you finish Chapter 2, you can call JoJo. And then, actually, how about we do this? Read Chapter 2. And then when you get done with Chapter 2, then you can call me and you can give me a summary of Chapter 1 and 2 together today. All right? So let's do it that way. So you've got your mythology test to do. You've got the Revolutionary War and the Stamp Act. And you've got your Indian in the Cupboard. And then that's pretty much about it. It's going to keep you pretty busy with all that reading today. So that will be good for you. All right. And then when JoJo gets over there, hopefully Wednesday, this cold hopefully will be gone, or at least not transmittable to you to give it to you. Then we will sit down and we will do geometry and chemistry together. We'll kind of go over review and go over what you've already done. So we can see where we need to look at from why your test was so low. All right. So if you have any questions, holler at me. And I expect a phone call after you read Chapter 2 for a summary of Chapter 1 and 2 of Indian in the Cupboard. And I will talk to you later. Love you. Bye-bye.